700 Club. After U.S. soldier Taylor Force was killed by a terrorist in Israel, his parents began a campaign to end the Palestinian government's policy known as pay to slay. They thought they won a major victory in 2018 when the Taylor Force Act became law.
Stuart and Robby Force recently discovered their work isn't finished. CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson brings us more on their latest fight.
Stuart and Robby Force are back on Capitol Hill, working to pass legislation that goes further than the Taylor Force Act. They want to close a loophole allowing banks to make payments to terrorists.
We've recently come to the realization that the job is half done. And the truth is the payments have continued, and those responsible have not been held accountable.
After serving tours in both Afghanistan and Iraq, Force's son Taylor was stabbed to death by a Palestinian terrorist in 2016.
Family of the Hamas terrorist who murdered Taylor, celebrated as a hero by Hamas, has been receiving martyr payments as reward for his despicable act.
The new legislation targets banks in the Middle East that continue to process martyr payments.
The Taylor Force Martyr Payment Prevention Act would give the Treasury Department the ability to designate these banks as institutions of primary money laundering concern and forbid them from using correspondent accounts in the United States.
Currently, the banks avoid sanctions by not keeping an official presence in the United States.
To those banks playing this game, your time is up.
Senator Lindsey Graham is confident the bill will pass, although Senator Mike Braun tells CBN News he's not so sure.
Sadly, it would take some type of miracle to get that across the finish line, but what it does give any of us is the ability to use the microphone to talk about it, because many people probably don't even realize that is happening.
While introduced by more than a dozen GOP senators, Braun believes it could be a slow process moving through the Senate, and he's not sure it can pass the House right now. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
This absolutely needs to pass. We need to have the ability to stop this kind of terrorist funding. In all the discussion of boycott, divestment, sanction, this is always left out. The Palestinian Authority pays for terrorism. They reward the families of terrorists with monthly payments. Those payments are absolutely tied to the severity of the crime. So in other words, the more Jews you kill, the more Israelis you kill, the bigger your payment. It is absolutely despicable. The Trump administration tried to shut this thing down. In 2018, the Taylor Force Act was passed. U.S. funds are not allowed to go to these payments, and that's one of the just horrors of it, that U.S. taxpayers were funding this. And so the funding to the Palestinian Authority was, you can't make these payments and expect the U.S. taxpayer to come in and support your budget. You can't expect UNRWA to come in and support your budget. And so the Trump administration moved very strongly to shut it all down. In the face of all that, the Palestinian Authority doubled down. They said, we're going to continue the payments. So now what can we do? Well, we can go after the banks that facilitate those payments. I can't believe the current administration wants to resume payments to the Palestinian Authority, wants to resume payments to UNRWA, wants to resume literally funding these terrorist acts. We have to stop it. Please encourage your congressman, your senator to pass this bill. Let's get some real teeth into it so we can stop the terrorism that is ongoing in Israel.